And so the virtual apprenticeship program ran in the past, but it didn't run on KadaKareer's main platform. Instead, they used a combination of Google Forms, email, Google Drive, Discord, and Notion to kind of make this work. And so instead, we want to bring this all onto one platform, and that was our solution, which was a one-stop shop for all, mobile-first web application where students can access their challenges, manage their challenges, track their progress, sign up, manage their groups, and do a whole lot of things that they could not do before. And so we'll be explaining what this looks like from the volunteers at KadaKareer's perspective and the students' perspective as well.
First, though, briefly going to touch on the tech stack. So for the front end, we use React, and we use style components as our UI library. For the back end, we use Nest.js, which is a really cool modern JavaScript framework. And for our database, we use Firebase. And we also do use Contentful for content management, which we'll talk about in a bit.
So Grace will talk about what it's like for the KadaKareer volunteers to build challenge content.
So the main platform that Kata volunteers can use to add or edit challenge data and content is a platform called Contentful, which is a content management system. And essentially, Contentful allows users to define a content model, which is what you see on the left. On the left, we have an instance of a week-by-week content model, and you see that it contains the internal name, the week name, as well as weekly content, which consists of references to other types of content models. If a user wants to define a new type of content, it's really easy to just select the content that you want to create and then fill in the respective fields. So this can be done by adding in text, uploading images, and so on. And then on the right, we have an instance of the week-by-week content. You'll see that it's been filled in name as well as the weekly content, which right now just consists of week-by-week headings and text cards. And the biggest benefit to using Contentful is that it's really easy for people who have no technical experience to access this website and add in or create new types of challenges without even adding a single line of code.
Yeah, so next up, talking about the student experience is going to be Anya.
Yeah, so the user's journey begins at the KadaKareer platform, where they're greeted with the homepage. At the top, you can see the user can either sign up or log into the platform. And at the bottom, you can see the user can look at all the different products that KadaKareer has to offer. And over there with the arrow pointing to it, that's the virtual apprenticeship program, which is what we worked on.
So yeah, so once you press the virtual apprenticeship button, you'll be guided into this page called Challenge Marketplace. This is like the one stop where cadets, as our clients are called, users are called, can see all the challenges in the form of challenge cards. And the colors on the sidebars of these challenge cards represent the career industry that these challenges belong to. And then the colorful tags on the bottom represent specific roles within that career industry. Also on this page, we have a lot of quality of life features, such as search bar that allows users to search for these challenge cards by their title, career industry, tags, or even description.
Yeah, and when they click into those cards, they're greeted with a challenge dashboard, which is just like an overview of each of the challenges as well as the week-by-week content. And then Lisa will explain like what happens when you enroll in these.
Yeah, so this challenge dashboard has two different views based on whether or not the user is enrolled in that challenge. So before enrolling, the user can look through an overview of the challenge and details on each week's submission. And then if they do decide to enroll, they can click on that sign up button. And this is where all the content that Grace mentioned was the volunteers uploaded to Contentful is displayed. And then once they are enrolled, they can see their progress or the number of weeks tasks that they've done so far at the top. And they can click through the weeks and edit or submit challenges, as you can see at the bottom. They can also view their current submissions on here.
Yeah, and so if they want to enroll into a challenge, they can click the sign up button like this, and then they can upload their resume, click any of the consent boxes, add any kind of text they want or additional comments they might have. And when they click the submit button, they'll be greeted with the welcome page, and then they'll go back to the main challenge, and then they can submit on the page once they switch to the other tabs.
When users are enrolling in a challenge, they also have the option to enroll as a group. And they do this by including the email addresses of the people that they want to do the challenge with. And this meant that we needed a way to notify these people that they were invited to a challenge. And we did this by implementing a mailing service using Nest.js's mailer module. And so now when users enroll in a group, the people that they invite receive email invitations. And we have two kinds of email invitations depending on whether the email address corresponds to a user that already exists or a new user. And so for instance, if you're a new user, the email invitation will contain a link to the challenge as well as a link to register for KadaKareer. And if you're an already existing user, then you'll just receive the link to the challenge. There's also the option to resend invitations, and this is what's demoed here. So if you go to the Manage page, you'll see the list of other users that you've invited to the challenge, and you can resend invitations.
So yeah, the contents in these description boxes are actually rendered from Markdown files. What this allows volunteers to do is to display a lot of content beyond just plain text. And yeah, it adds a lot of versatility to the page.
So yeah, users participating in a virtual apprenticeship program are expected to complete a number of weekly tasks. And this gift just walks through the flow of submitting one of these. So basically, users can scroll down to the bottom of whichever week they're a part of, or whichever week they want to complete a submission for. Then they can click the edit challenge or challenge submission button, depending on if one has already been made. Then enter in any sort of link that they want. This can be a Google Docs, a Notion page, even like a TikTok or Instagram post based on the challenge. Then any comments they have, and then just click the continue page, and they're redirected to the week they just submitted for, and then you can see the updated submission on the front end.
So the Manage tab in the challenge dashboard allows the user to view all the other members in their group and their statuses. So for example, there's only one member in this group, so it's an individual, and you can see they're confirmed. However, if there were other members in the group and their statuses were pending, then there would be an option for you to resend invitation, which is, you could have kind of seen it in Grace's slide. And at the bottom down there, there's also an unenroll button option, so the user can unenroll from the challenge itself.
Yeah, so we'll run through a quick demo over here.
Yeah, we'll try to keep this short. So we can go over to this tab over here. Let's open it up. Oh, is this shared? Maybe it is, yeah. Okay, cool. So here's the sort of home screen that we showed you. What's going on? Oh, it's not being shared. Okay, cool. How do we do that? Oh, let me add the tab. Oh, share the full screen?
Yeah, stop sharing, then share entire screen.
Okay, share screen. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So yeah, this. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's make this quick. So we have the homepage that we showed. We are interested in virtual apprenticeship, so we go over here. From here, we see all the different cards. We can also filter by stuff. So let's say I'm into like marketing, filter by marketing, stuff like that. Now let's actually go into a challenge. So let's say I'm interested in marketing. I click on this one, and I can see all this content about this challenge. So it tells me, about the company's mission, stuff like that. And I can go and sign up for this challenge. So over here, I can choose to upload my resume. Oh, nice. We have some files over here. Let's do this picture. Okay, perfect. We can also do a group submission. So let's say I want to invite myself, actually. So I'll do that real quick. Oh, I can't type. Can you hold this real quick? Okay, yeah. And then we sign up, and then let's enter this. Okay, and then let's go and submit. And now we'd actually get an email if we went to my email, which I can show you later. But real quick, I'm just going to show now we can actually submit challenges. So we go over here, we can put some content. So let's just submit a link or some random stuff. And then now we've successfully submitted it, and we can see that over here, and also the progress updates. And last thing real quick is the manage screen now populates with Praneeth, who is like this user, as well as me, who is the new user. I can also resend invite. But yeah, that's not for the demo. Let's go back to our presentation over here. All right.
Awesome.
Awesome, yeah. So for our user testings, we had 3 main goals as we went through it. If you could go to the next slide. Yeah, so we wanted to find out how navigable the overall user flow is, how intuitive the overall design is, and any confusions and or frustrations that the user might experience as they go through our web interface. And we conducted an overall of 6 user testings, and everyone did have a Filipino background and was between the ages 18 to 22. Originally, we conducted our first two with Kata affiliated students, but then we realized that there were some biases to their responses to our questions and the way that they went through our tasks. So by eliminating it, we reached out to 4 non-Kata affiliated students, and they had the exact same background as well. And from that, we found that the design was intuitive, straightforward, and easily understandable. The overall user flow was effortless. It was easily navigable with buttons clearly portraying the next steps that they would open up, as well as just occasional bugs here and there.
So what's next for the virtual apprenticeship program? Over the next couple of weeks, we'll just finish up, wrap up additional features and bugs, continue some more user testing, and hand off the product to our partners with some documentation as well. And so with that said, thank you so much for your time. Do you guys have any questions? Question? Yeah, so if you actually notice, a lot of the text in our demo is like a mix of Tagalog and English. And so most students in the Philippines do understand English, and they use like modern social media platforms. And so they do speak a mix of English and Tagalog. So yeah, I think what we're using right now, the user base is mostly going to be Filipino students. So it's going to be a mix of English and Tagalog. I don't think right now there's a plan to translate into other languages. Shay? Anybody? Favorite memory?
I mean, okay, this one's kind of lame, but honestly, it's really satisfying to be able to see, like.
The Zoom needs to.
Oh, of course. It's really satisfying being able to see, like a design that Maxine and the other designers on KadaKareer make on Figma. It's really satisfying seeing that translate into the web app and be like interactable and stuff. So it was my first time like seeing that whole process from beginning to end. And there was just like, it was really satisfying. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
So I noticed that in your virtual apprenticeship application, there's a lot of like complex and inspiring graphics. I guess I was just wondering, so how is the balance between designing a lot of those graphics and then also implementing them in CSS, whatever? I guess I'd like to hear from like designers, Maxine, and then also just any devs who want to talk about it. Yeah, how is the balance there between design them and implementing them?
Yeah, I actually, at first, I was like adding them. I was so excited. Having them big, small, like making sure everything was, from design, visually appealing. But then I did find out later on, like it's a pain to actually implement from the tech side. So that was actually really interesting to learn about. And as you did see, some of them still need to be edited towards like replicating the actual design sizes and stroke lines and such. But anyone want to speak from the tech side?
Yeah, so at first, again, like this was I started just during this project, but like making the SVGs mobile responsive, so when you like shrink the size of the screen, that was a little difficult, but like over time you could get, it was like an easier process. Yeah.
So, what are some difficulties, or like how intuitive do you think the switch from like the maintainer's KadaKareer to using using like Notion and all those different platforms, like using Contentful? How easy or difficult do you think that switch will be for them?
So ideally, we would want them to keep using what platforms they're using, I guess. But I think in terms of having the most functionality, like Contentful just has way more features that allow us to like restrict the input values for stuff so that they don't accidentally input values that might break the content on the front end, right? So I think it's like it's the best middle ground between like just like just like a text editor and having some database manager. So I think it's the best middle ground for people who don't have a lot of coding experience. But yeah, since we have all the content models built out for them already, most of their job is just data entry. So that shouldn't be too hard, I want to say. Maybe a little bit of a learning curve at the beginning, just because navigating the platform is a little bit difficult compared to Notion or something. But I think otherwise it's much more easy than having to manually edit the database.
Yeah, I think it'll be a bit of a learning curve at first. We're planning on making videos explaining how Contentful works to help them out. But yeah, I mean, hopefully the markdown makes it a lot easier for them.
I think that's all the time we have for questions, but. Next up, I believe we have 7,000. Can you sign in? What? Oh, I didn't think it'd make you sign in. All right, here you guys go.
We have the one mic this time? Two tests. We have the one mic this time?
Yeah, just one mic. This one has signing issues.
I need to see if my phone can connect. I get that working beforehand. It's like 2 minutes. Okay.
We're gonna have a short, 1 minute little break as we can get something connected, but we should be back in a second.
So I'm going to join the Zoom and screen share off my screen onto the Zoom so everyone can see. And then make sure the audio goes through.
If it doesn't work, then you might just have to abandon it. But
no, I'll just do no audio.
Okay. Make sure it's
Only host can show.
Can you add host? Oh, actually, you can do it on there. Just make yourself like a co-host or something. There's a video on it. Keep in mind.
Hello.
All right, we guys are gonna get started on the next. Wait, you need more time? Shit.
See if I can.
All right, we're gonna get started on the next presentation.
All right, let's switch back to. Okay. Okay, are we good? All right, thank you guys for coming out. Our team has continued this partnership with 7,000 Languages this semester, and we're super excited to share what we've been working on. Yeah, so we'll all introduce ourselves as we speak, but my name is Yogi Kapol. I've been the product manager for this team. So first, let's just start off by talking a little bit about our partners, 7,000 Languages. So 7,000 Languages works with communities to empower them to teach, learn, and sustain their endangered languages. So what does that mean? There are approximately 7,000 languages in the world, approximately half of which are in danger of falling entirely out of use, which then endangers, indigenous cultures, refugee cultures. So 7,000 Languages works to address this issue by working directly with these communities to create free courses that are published online. The issue starts to begin when the courses are very good, but they take 21 months to put together, which means there's a lot of communities on the waitlist 7,000 Languages can't get to, and even more they just can't reach out to. That's where we step in. So the product we're building is a mobile app that allows users to do two things. One, it allows communities to develop their own language learning courses. This is what's really special and what's not available in your Duolingos, your Rosetta Stones. And this was the focus of last semester's work. This semester, that's incomplete without having learners be able to search their courses, join courses, and begin learning from them. That was the emphasis of the work we've done this semester, and especially since our midpoint. So our team will talk a little bit more about that a little later in the presentation. But first, just briefly going over our tech stack.
Hello everyone, my name is Ashay. I'm the tech lead for this project. So our tech stack is the following. We wrote this entire app in JavaScript. On the front end, we use Native Base, React Redux, and React Native alongside Expo. For the API, we use Node.js and Express. Our data is stored in AWS S3 buckets and MongoDB. And we, of course, test our backend with Jest. And overall, it's a pretty uniform, robust tech stack. All right, I'll pass it off to Jocelyn Masson to talk about designs.
Yeah, for this semester, we mainly focus on the learner side, and we have 4 main focuses. So first, we have the search functionality. So besides the simple search, we also have the filter supported, so the user can filter by owner, course, or language by their choice. And there's also like personal design for each user. After the user search the course, there will be join or leave courses option. So they will be seeing all the key information, and so there will be no confusion among like the courses who share the which share the same like name or something. And there will be different steps for joining a public or private courses, so the privacy will be guaranteed.
We also had the goals to build out a completed learning flow, which has consistency with how it navigates with the contributor and that whole navigation flow. So we took the layers and levels of content with that, and also designed it to be a little bit more dynamic. With that, we also wanted to incorporate interactive learning activities that are responsive, that give correct or try again for the user. And then also it uses a mixture of the inputted data from the contributor, so it usually matches audio to text.
Yeah, here are just some sketches we have for inspiration. So we took several iterations before delivering the final prototype.
And these are also some sketches we did for the activities itself, and then we wanted to make a big emphasis on like progression for the user.
Now we're going to talk about some stuff we did since IPC. Starting off with
Hi, I'm Misha. So today I'm going to talk to you as a continuation of what I did for the first half of the semester. Instead of just brute force changing the language settings, we allow the user to take that into their own hands. So under your personal settings, you can switch between different learning languages if you want to learn the courses in your native language.
And also, you might want to restrict who can and can't learn a particular language. So course contributors can switch between making their courses private and public, and they can insert a security code that the user can have to be able to join the course.
So I'm Shafan, and I'm a developer. So I also worked on course search. So basically, it shows all the courses that 7000 currently has, and then you can use the search courses bar on top to filter between what courses you want. So you can search like SP for Spanish, and then after you're prompted with a join course, like a notification screen where then you can enter the code if you have authorization to access the course.
Yeah, hi everyone, my name is Ellie. I'm a developer for 7000, and here's a little bit more about learner flow. So it just shows the hierarchy of courses, units, and then therefore lessons. So you'll see here you can navigate through the entire course and then view learner progress as you complete different activities through the different vocab items.
Hello, my name is Rustam. I'm a software developer on 7000 Languages. For a brief overview of how learners can learn the courses in our application, we've built 2 basic learning activities, which are matching text to audio and matching audio to text. So on the first screen, you can see, you would see an example of either text or audio in the foreign language that you're trying to learn. And then on the second screen, you would have to match it to the correct pairing. And then you go through a few of those and you complete the activity.
Yeah, so the last thing we're working on, or the latest thing I was working on, was creating notifications on posting a new language. Your information about your course that you want to create sends directly to the administration at 7000. They can choose to approve or reject, and we're doing this through the Node Mailer service.
Okay, so now we're going to shift over to doing a live demo. So bear with us for a second as we try and get our app published, screen sharing on the Zoom.
Anyone else have Expo? Want to run the app?
Expo? Expo app? Phone? Expo?
Wait, what's happening?
My Wi-Fi is not working.
Okay.
Anyone else have Expo?
There's someone's pulling it
You
up.
guys all have Expo?
Yeah, thank you guys. We just needed 1 moment.
The Wi-Fi is not working for some reason. Okay, someone want to scan the QR code.
Alex, you're going to be talking second, right?
Yeah.
So just stand next to Andy.
And Jocelyn's gonna have to sign in Jason Chains. Can you join the
Jocelyn, can you come over here for this part? Can you come over here for this part? Wow, this one's going back. We'll be fine, yeah. I don't.
Okay. We're good? Share screen?
Let me mute. No, I got it wrong. Yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for waiting. We'll be pulling up the app in a second, and Andy will be starting us off.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Andy. I'm one of the software developers on 7000 this semester. And one of the things I worked on was persisting authentication. So when you first open the app, you are prompted with logging in, which we allow Google login. And so basically all the user needs to do is open the classic Google login screen and put in their information. And then once that is done, you're officially entering the app and you'll see all of your associated data. And the magical thing is if you exit the app and reopen it an hour or 2 hours later, you'll still able to log in automatically without having to log in through Google again. So this saves the user a lot of hassle. And all of this is done by automatically handling the exchange and updating auth session in the back. Yeah, I'm passing it to Alex to talk about caching.
Hey, I'm Alex, and so one thing we worked on this semester was caching images and audio in the app. So if we don't have a cache, then every time the user accesses a page that has images or audio on it, the app has to ask the server for each of those images and audio individually, and that takes a long time. So what we can do is, once we get them for the first time, we can store them. That way, when we need them again, the app just has them ready to use. So if I open this lesson here, we open here, you can see there's no images shown and they're going to slowly load in one at a time. That's because they haven't been cached yet. So you can see they're slowly loading in. But then if we leave this page, the next time we come back to it, all of the images pop up instantly. All right, next I'm going to hand the app over to Ellie.
Yes, so one of the other main things that I worked on this semester was updating the course names and descriptions as well as for the units and lessons. So it's important for the contributor to have that sort of control over their course. So, yep, you can see here that I'm just going to change something in the description. And you can see that that edit was immediately displayed.
I'm Jamie. I forgot to introduce myself. If you want to change the course settings, you can do so here, and you can put a security code, and then if you change it to public, the security code isn't used anymore, but it will persist. So if you change it back, it'll stay there.
Alrighty, and to edit your personal settings, let's say changement dans le réseau. Now, in François, revert. You're in English now.
So since Jocelyn was the creator of Mandarin Chinese, we're going to switch over to a different account so we can access the learner side. Oh. Is it? Oh, it's Ellie? Oh.
You just have to go to the learner.
Okay, my bad. Okay, so here you can go to the nav bar and you can go to search courses where it'll display all the courses here. So these are all the courses that we currently have in 7,000 languages. In the search course, you can do Mandarin Chinese and you can click on it and it gives you a description and then you can click join now, which gives you the authorization code.
I've been told that the code for this course is 7,000. Don't tell anyone outside the meeting. So now for an overview of the learner flow on the learner side as opposed to the contributor side. Obviously, this layout is pretty similar. We have units, lessons, and vocabulary items. So we can click into our example unit here. We can see our lessons on phrases, colors, and numbers. And then we see a list of vocabulary items. So we see the translation of the word or phrase, and then we see the word or phrase in the foreign language, as well as any descriptions or context, such as the pinyin for that phrase. There's also an optional image to describe phrase, as well as the option to play audio for the phrase. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but.
你好。
Yeah. So once you're at this page, you can kind of search through all like the actual content of it. But once you've reviewed that, you can actually go in and start an activity. So here you'll see this is the first activity we planned out, and it's audio to text matching. So here you'll press your audio.
再见.
And then from there, you get to choose the options. So the way we designed it was if you get it right, it'll indicate it's green. But if you have the wrong option,
你好.
We wanted to prompt the user to keep going and find the right option. So we block it off and then they can keep going and hopefully get it right. So once you keep, this was the first activity we designed out, but once you get to the second stage, it is text to audio matching. So here you'll have to press the audio to listen.
天气怎么样?
But to actually confirm your selection, you have to press it and then also press the confirm button on the bottom.
你几岁? 你好，再见.
But once you completed all of these activities, you'll get to a congratulations stage, but hopefully you can get there.
再见，你几岁?
Okay, thank you.
再
Then-
见。
Yeah, thank you. And then briefly going over our next steps. Our next steps are to deploy to the iOS test flight and Play Store beta testing so it can actually get out on the App Store. People can actually start downloading it. And then finishing up with some of our P1s, P2s over the next few weeks. Okay, thank you all for listening. Do you have any questions? Eric.
What was your most memorable moment working with this project?
I'll let one of the team members answer this. I think. Oh, the question is, what was your most memorable experience working on this? I'll let someone who's not me or Shay answer this because I think that's more interesting. Does anyone want to? What Rustam can say?
Yeah, I feel like guys, you're gonna make me cry. I had a great time working on 7,000 this semester. I think getting to know all the members and seeing how everyone's strengths and weaknesses work together was really inspiring. And yeah, it's really made me excited to work on similar projects in the future. Any more questions?
Yeah, there's something that Madison. Oh, the question is, how is the switch from considering last semester the user being a contributor, creating course data, versus now this semester more of a learner? And Madison and Jocelyn can speak to this more, but I think at least for me, I was probably last semester and this semester, I was trying to keep at least design elements somewhat similar. I think there's the basics of how do you structure a course, how must information be presented is pretty similar, considering that contributors also, most of them won't have been teachers before, won't know how to structure language courses. So some of that's simple, but regarding what's different, Madison, Jocelyn, do you have anything to add?
So I think a big part of what we did this semester was we got to get more familiar with the contributor side since we did a lot of UI work in the beginning there. So for the learner side, we took heavy inspiration from that and moved forward. But I think the learner side was just a bit more difficult for us since we had to do a little bit more research on how a learner would actually interact with this content. So it was different in that aspect because the contributor will have the knowledge in that front, but we wanted to find a way how we could simply display it on the UI for the learner side.
Yeah, so I guess our main goal this semester is to make the learner site functional and interactive and fun. And we spent a lot of time on doing research on making it, responsive and, with the optional graph feature, how to make it fun and, attractive to users for, learn for a long time. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, it looks like, oh, yeah.
If you sign in with the one Google account, can that same account be a learner and contributor account?
Yeah, it can be a learner and contributor. That would normally be for different courses though. So, maybe you're a contributor here, but a learner there. But yeah. Are we out of time? Okay, thank you guys so much.
No worries. Just having to make sure it doesn't go too far. All right, next up we have Brink. Go. It doesn't work right now. Sorry, we tried. You'll just have to pass it around. Right, shh, guys. You guys are. All right, we are gonna get started. So let's keep it a little quiet, and yeah.
Do you want to control the mic? You want to control the slides? Or we'll swap just to drop as people speak.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Brink election guide. Hopefully your favorite presentation of the day, but they're all great presentations. So yeah, we can all introduce ourselves. My name is Ian. I'm the tech lead this semester. Archana is our product manager. And then I can go line by line. So we got Albert, Jessica, Kush, Priyanka, Rohan, Sophia, and V. I know everyone on my team. That's very successful. Awesome. I'll pass it off to Archana.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Brink. So Brink is focused on making democracy more accessible to people with disabilities. And this was really important in the 2020 primary election, where it was noted that disabled Americans were less likely to participate in the democratic process. They were twice as likely to face problems when voting, and they were less likely to even be registered to vote. And this all just like exemplifies what a big problem it is for disabled Americans to participate in the democratic process. So I'll pass it off to Ian to talk a little bit about the solution.
Yeah, so what have we been building out at Brink is a progressive web app, both desktop and mobile friendly, that should be the home for all things election related. Users can hit Brink's site to prepare for an election, learn about relevant races and various candidates, and even resolve potential issues that they might experience throughout the entire voting process. So what we've been building out for 2 semesters now is the actual UI, but then we actually had this really cool opportunity this semester to actually demo out Brink in the 2022 midterm elections. And this is really exciting to culminate all the work that we've done and truly like release this site to the public. You can imagine we build a lot of things here at Hack4Impact, but to actually release it to the public and hear their thoughts while we're building it was a really exciting opportunity. And you can see in the top right, we got Rohan voting. Hopefully we did not commit any voter fraud during these photos, but it was really exciting. And we're gonna talk about the actual results of our analytics very soon. But yeah, Brink is targeted towards people with disabilities, but I think as students, we all have something to gain from the site. The whole idea is that we wanna leverage our right to vote, right? That's the whole point of Brink, and we wanna help enable people like you and me and people with disabilities to participate in that process. So we're gonna pass it off to the devs now to talk about all the really cool stuff. And actually, we'll talk about what we're working on first.
Yeah, so before at MPC, we talked a little bit about how we implemented the nearby polling places page, a little bit about that, about the ability to check your ID requirements for your state, display mail-in voting information, and we added to the candidates page with endorsements and social links. But recently, we've been working on analytics, which Kush will talk about for the midterm elections. We've been working on accessibility features like the text size slider, as well as language support. We've also been working on branding with responsive footer, and we've done a accessibility review, which is essentially just checking out what accessibility fixes we still have left in the application. So yeah, now I'll go ahead and pass it off to Kush. I'll actually talk about user outreach first. So yeah, this semester we talked to 2 different groups. We talked to a student organization and we talked to the Center for Vision and Population Health, and we conducted 2 rounds of user research, one with 5 users and one with 3 users, and we gained a lot of insight about the usability of the application, as well as some fixes we could potentially make. Okay, now I'll actually hand it off to Kush.
All right, so before I go into our setup for analytics, I just want to talk about why analytics is really important. So analytics in a website is just tracking events and events are basically like, clicking a button or like switching a page or anything I would like to track. And analytics are really helpful in just figuring out how the site works and how people are interacting with it and what the pain points are. And Brink is really an accessibility-based website. So we really want to use the analytics to our advantages. And like they said, like the midterm elections really helped us with, figuring out what could have been restructured a little bit better on the website and how it could be made to look better and be more helpful to people, anyone that might be having pain points. So the setup of analytics, we tracked 7 events right here. And the first event is the About Brink link clicked, which you'll see by the rectangles. This is what this is what it looks like on the actual web app. We tracked all of those, provide feedback to Brink or privacy policy, all those boxes whenever someone clicks them. That's what we tracked. The next event is the checklist link clicked. So you'll see all of those gray box links that are at the bottom of each of those checklist items. Those are tracked so we can see what people are clicking more often and what's really important to other people. And then the next event is the nearby help link click, which is what that looks like on the web app. And here you'll see that we only tracked the website and the call buttons. We just checked which actual help websites other people use or like resources that other people use. And the next event was the page viewed one, which is just a simple event to track when a user switches a page. And the next event is the resolve polling places clicked, which is what that looks like on the web app. It's just the same idea as the gray box. We just track what they're clicking in. And the next one is the social link clicked, where we will show you that the candidates, the links within the candidates, like the website or the Twitter or any social links that they have, we tracked what users click, what links within those candidates. And then the final event is the voter FAQ, and which is where we just tracked what each of those boxes are clicked and like whenever the users clicks them. How this is really helpful for us is just we can restructure which FAQs, for example, we can restructure which ones are clicked more than the other ones, and we can just restructure them based on how helpful each of those are and make it easier for the users to use our web app. So for the results of analytics, this is all from the midterm elections. So we got 282 unique users that used the web app during the elections. And you can see on November 8, which was the election day, there was a spike that had 92 unique users. And the next statistic is the average number of events that were tracked per each user session. And in that user session, you can see that most people had around about 10 to 12 events. With this tells us that they finished all their business with the web app in 12 events, which is like 12 of those 7 events that we talked about. And that's how much it took. And it's really helpful for us to consider. And I'll pass it off to Rohan to talk about one final statistic.
Yeah, thanks, Kush. Another really important metric that we got to track, and I think it's a really rewarding aspect too, is kind of the general location of our users. And so with the past midterm 2022 election that just happened, we could see a lot of the users, and it's really rewarding to see that it happened like throughout the U.S. in general. Obviously, there's a big amount in Champaign and Chicago, just with kind of us spreading the word around Champaign and our founders being from Chicago. And I'll go on to the next slide, where I'll talk about one of the features that I implemented this semester, which is essentially just kind of some way of replicating mock data. So to give some context, one of the biggest, a lot of the data we use that we get to source our information from is this API called Ballot Ready, and that returns a lot of just polling information, election information from a general location that where the user's from. And so what happens is that now the midterm 22 election is over, that data doesn't get returned to us because it's kind of dependent on time based. And so the way that we use to solve that issue, and while that's kind of ideal for users because it's important for them to see that, oh yeah, like right here, there's no current election in Illinois, but for developers, it's important for us to work with that data so we can make changes regarding that data and when that data is present. So that the way that we used to fix that was to sort of implement a way to cache fake data. So first we created like fake data. This was fake elections, fake polling places, stuff that we could use just to populate the website for when someone's testing it. And then we had to display this base data based on an environment variable. So essentially, if that variable is set to true, we'll display fake data. Otherwise, we're just continuing with the variable and just the general site. And so this was implementing like mimic mock API calls, which was like calls to Ballot Ready and Google Civic, another API that we used with a response and a delay. And it's just really important overall just to see that fake data there, and that's something that we can use to work with. So I'll hand it off to Priyanka and Sophia to talk about the next.
Thank you, Rohan. So a feature that Sophia and I worked on was incorporating a slider into the accessibility options popover so that the user could customize their text size preference across the entire application. So this feature is incredibly important for 2 reasons. The first reason is that this feature greatly increases the accessibility of our application since it caters to users with varying visual needs. And the second reason is that this feature interacts with essentially all parts of the application since there's text basically everywhere. So because of this, we had to make a lot of design decisions regarding which text we wanted to resize and which text we wanted to remain constant so that the overall look of the application would remain user-friendly. So going back to the slider, our slider has a default value of ×1 and it goes up to ×2, which is the largest multiplier value. And we store this multiplier value in local storage so that whenever the user comes back to the application, the settings will be as they initially customize it. To dynamically resize the text size across the application, we had to interact a lot with the existing styles and the themes and overwrite some of those functions so that the text would resize. And to keep some of the text size constant, we had to create a custom styles object so that features such as the nav bar or accessibility options wouldn't be affected by the text size resizing, and the application would remain user-friendly. So on the screen, we can see several examples of the text size slider at work. And I'll pass it off to V and Albert now.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to also work on the accessibility options on the right side here, but we were given the task to implement a drop-down menu so the user were able to toggle between English and Spanish. And this is also important for a lot of reasons because we want to cater to the voters and like a majority of people in the United States do not just only speak English. So we want to implement an accessibility option that allows them to also exercise their civic or their right to vote. So what we were able to do was I was able to use a drop-down menu from our Chakra library, and we were able to, based on what the user selected for their language preference, it would translate the entire website to fit that language. So what I had what I had trouble doing with this was context. So this is like global data. So all parts of the website would be affected by the selection. So we were able to hook the context into like how everybody was able to like use it on the website, if that makes sense. But yeah. And then I'll pass it off to Sophia to finish up the.
Thank you. Okay, so similar to V, Priyanka and I worked on translating the entire landing page into Spanish or English based off of the language that the user decides to choose using the accessibility form. And the way that we did this was by creating a dictionary helper function that basically keeps track of like all the English translations and Spanish translations of everything on the page so that nothing is hard-coded. And now I can pass it off on to Jessica.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So this is the footer component that I worked on this semester, and Rohan also worked on some of it. So basically we have a desktop footer and a mobile footer. And we use like a uses mobile hook to kind of like conditionally render whichever one, your device that you're using. The intent of this is to increase accessibility on the site because as you can see, a lot of them like have like links, external links reference. So you have their mobile app, their Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So kind of using like a map function to map each of the hrefs, so the hyperlinks to the icons, in the case of the mobile one, and then just the words and text. We also have like an SVG icon to the right of the words where like it kind of like has like an external link kind of icon that's like nice. And both these are like not fixed, so like it's at the bottom of the page when you scroll, and it just looks really nice overall. Some things I worked on in addition to this is the accessibility of it. So Brink is all about accessibility. So and that also kind of transfers over to code. So like removing like unnecessary flex tags, making it like an unordered list tag as well, and then like fixing a bunch of things was something that I worked on and learned about this semester. And so talking about accessibility, Albert's gonna continue on the same note.
Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, so I know we've talked a lot about accessibility so far, but it really is like an important part of the application. And we've showed some features that sort of target that, including some like things like the text size, right? But some of the things that you may not see about accessibility are access through things like a screen record or screen reader, sorry, the words blanked for me. Things like tabbable elements, things that you may not see if you're just interacting with the website as you would normally. And so a lot of those things we can sort of figure out if there are violations of accessibility standards through tools like AI Inspector, other sort of online accessibility checkers. And so I think a lot of us, not just me, we worked on fixing these sort of violations of accessibility. And I think I can speak for all of us when I think I say that it's really helped us, understand accessibility more and understand how important it is. And now I think we have a demo.
So I think we'll go ahead and skip the demo and we'll just move on to questions.
Yeah, and if you're curious to demo out the app, just recommend hitting this live deployment, web.brinkapp.co. It's live, and you can always check out the work that we're doing. But yeah, that's it for us today. Thank you so much. Any questions? Yeah, Ashay. Okay, favorite Brink memory. We've practiced these ones before, right? Does anyone want to go?
Yeah, so we created this thing called the HR team within Brink. It's it's me and Rohan. We just had like a lot of memories in general. It's like joshing around, having fun, just learning how to like work with a team and also have fun because we have responsibilities, but it's also like we are also like love having fun. So I think that's just general good memories. Yeah. Eric? Or do you want to go?
No, I was just gonna say, I guess I can kind of add on to that. I think like the best part of being on Brink is just kind of the social environment that we made. I think like the culture between us has grown so close. It's been a lot of fun. Like Kush has been saying, with this HR joke and other things going around. But yeah.
Yeah, Eric.
Yeah. So, what are some unexpected learnings that you guys had when working on accessibility focused web app?
Priyanka kind of mentioned this, but I think something that shocked me about just like the text slider in general was how many pages that it touched. So like when the text slider like increases, it's not just changing the text on one page, it's changing the text on like every single possible page and component. And so that makes it so that you have to like also style those components individually sometimes because they all like come in different ways. Also, sorry, I'm like losing my breath. Yeah, so it was like it took a lot more time than I thought, but I feel like we learned a lot from it as well.
Yeah, and then another thing that I actually learned was that we have this tool called like Lighthouse, which I didn't like realize that you could use for, so you can like check the accessibility of each web page, like GitHub or like even like Brink. So like, using that like tool was very important. Like it's like an extension to like Google Chrome, Edge, whatever browser you're on. And I could see like the accessibility score like go up based on like certain like design choices I made in the code. So like if I like add like a flex tag like unnecessarily, it's gonna go down, of course. But if I like make things like an unordered list like correctly, and I like tag it like so that like it fits the standards, then I could see it go up. So that was like an interactive component that I liked working with, and I'd recommend that everyone uses. Yes, Ali.
Yeah, so as a dev, also working on like as we worked on like changing like the language for the app, and as a dev, also working on like a language app. I'm just wondering a little bit about how you were able to, I guess like translate everything, because I know 7,000 had their own struggles with that. Just wanting to understand like how, like making sure that because you're not just like going from Google Translate, right? Like it's something different. I was just wondering kind of how that worked, how the translating to Spanish really worked out for you all.
I mean, maybe Ian and Archana can speak more to this, but I think right now we don't have all the translations fully. So we have translations for like some specific parts of the sites. And I think those are like pretty important. But obviously, I think the goal is to eventually have, legitimate translations for the entire site. And obviously, the extensibility is there also for more language than just English and Spanish as well. So kind of building that framework for the future. Or I need, yeah.
You talked a lot about like accessibility for disabilities, and the two main things we thought were like the slider and the text to speech. So is this all like audio visual disabilities?
Yeah, I can repeat that question. So you're wondering like what type of disabilities are we trying to cater towards, right? So the text slider and I guess translation in general are trying to cater towards maybe low vision or people don't know English, right? But the entire app point of Brink is actually to be screen reader friendly. So you don't need to, for example, even interact with like the actual window. It's all about tab navigation. And that comes back to what Albert was talking about before, actually measuring that each like label and like HTML input that we're using is semantically correct, so that you don't actually like need to build out anything, but the screen reader itself can read the screen, and then you can navigate the page just using your keyboard or a screen reader. So that's something we've done with user research that maybe Archana could talk about.
Yeah, so I think in terms of actually building out the application, most of it like visually, so this kind of is not related to the screen reader, but a lot of it is just focusing on making sure things are high contrast. So actually in one of our user interviews, we had asked I think her name was Rosalind, but we'd asked her to just check off some of the checkboxes, and we realized that we actually didn't even make our checkboxes like high contrast enough with with our white background, because they were light gray and they weren't even really visible. And so I think like a lot of it is, of course, making sure that we're increasing the text size so it's visible to people who might not be able to view smaller forms of text. We actually got a lot of feedback on how people liked bold text and like some of the headers because of just how large they were and how easy to read they were. So yeah. And this is kind of I'm low-key demoing our our site. So
Yeah, you can see how like right now we have a staging environment hooked up to mock data that Rohan built out. So yeah, check out the site. I think we're out of time, but I appreciate all of your really good questions. Thank you.
All right, I think last up we have Coko.
Keep an eye on the back just for the time.
Okay, got you.
Okay. Hi guys, this is Coko, and we're gonna demonstrate what we've been working on this semester. So this is our lovely team. I'm Zora, I'm product manager, and we have Aditya and Andrew as our tech lead, Faith as our designer, and we have Aaron, Anthony, Eric, Esther, and Neha, and Pete as our awesome developers. So as an intro, this semester we're working with Coko Foundation, which is an organization dedicated to making open source tools for research publication process. Next slide. We built uPublish is their motivation, and they use open source to transform this, how knowledge is created, improved, and shared. And this is our client, Ryan. And specifically, we're working on Kotahi, which is a tool dedicated to the editing, reviewing, and publishing process of research papers, e-prints, and micropubs. And a lot of the large science organizations, MNet, eLife, and Aperture have already been using this tool to manage their internal review and publishing workflow. So where do we come in?
Yeah, thanks, Zora. So just for some recap on what we had been working on in the first part of the semester, we've been adding some features to Kotahi to support DOI registration with custom suffixes. So just some background, DOI is an acronym. It stands for Digital Object Identifier, and it's a core part of Kotahi's workflow. You'll notice there's an example of a DOI on the board up here, and DOIs are used by Kotahi's clients to mark their research objects like articles, manuscripts, that kind of thing with a specific identifier, and they really want to customize the suffix portion of it to match internal naming conventions so that they can improve their publishment workflow. And so that's what we had been working on the first part of the semester, and I'll hand it over to Aditya to talk about how we actually went about implementing this.
Yeah, so in order to publish DOIs for articles as well as peer reviews, we're using Crossref's API. And Crossref is an organization that supports DOI publishing and registration. So this is what we worked on for the first half of the semester, and this has been approved by our client. And since then, we've been working on the dashboard 2.0, which Pete will be talking about. Oh, wait, sorry. What Zora will be talking about.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through just like the workflow. So the target user roles to start, we are concerned with authors, editors, and reviewers. So the normal process is author submit a paper and editor assigns reviewer to review it, and reviewer gives suggestions, and then editor approves it, declines it, have it revised. Key problems our client are facing includes first, review status information is really scattered all over the place on the dashboard, and secondly, the data display format is really not super friendly. It's like all plain text and just like strings. And so this leads us to the questions of how do we want to aggregate efficiently display the data so that's more user-friendly and more pertains to the role that user is in and the action the user wants to perform. And so our solution is divided up to 3 parts. And if we go to the next slide, we can see an overview of our changes include homepage tables restructuring and a review management workflow dashboard. And also we devised a new system of status and more visual cues for users to be able to follow this workflow.
Thanks. So yeah, just a quick overview of the tech stack we've been working with to implement these features. For the front end, we've been using JavaScript, React, and styled components. We've also been using GraphQL as a flexible middleware to communicate with our backend. We're fortunate enough to be able to use libraries like Apollo that implement caching and some other features for us automatically.
And then on the back end, we're using Docker, which is a robust solution for containerizing our application. We're also using Node.js and Express to create an HTTP server. And then for our database, we're using PostgreSQL. And now Pete will talk about Dashboard 2.0.
Thank you. So as Zora mentioned, a lot of the work we're doing on Kotahi is refactoring and redesigning some of their like poorly designed pages. So we start off with the dashboard where we split up, we created separate tables for each page. So there's like a submission tab, a reviewer tab, an editor view, all of those with different content. And Aaron's going to talk a little bit more about how we were able to implement that.
Yeah, so basically what me and Pete did was that we basically transformed the Kanban dashboard to display each of the tabs. So author, a reviewer, editor to basically display horizontally rather than vertically. So basically, we added a bunch of new components. As you can see right there, Pete added a donut under the reviewer status category. And for my personal contribution, I added a decision and team link under the actions category that point to the decisions tab and the teams tab in the editors page.
Yeah, and then Eric and I worked some more on improving the backend support for adding filtering, sorting, and pagination. So we're able to use Postgres search vectors to search through data, and we're able to implement this using GraphQL to hook this up to our backend.
Yeah, and as a small front-end refinement, we implemented a feature that stores the last tab a user was on in the database so that the user's last tab can be restored when they either reload the page or they just log in again so that users can really just start where they last left off.
So I worked on a Kanban board to display the status of the reviewers for each manuscript and manuscript version. So as you can see before, on the left is they had a reviewer's status page that wasn't organized by the different statuses, and it was just displayed horizontally. And after we made a Kanban board, which is basically a tool to display a workflow, and it's organized into columns, and there's cards within them horizontally laid out. And so first I had to work on the layout of the Kanban board, which involved like a lot of style components. And also the Kanban board takes like the column headers from like a file that the user configures, so like invited, accepted, in progress, as well as the color for the badges. And based on like how many there are, it resizes the columns so it all fits on the page. And then I had to sort like Zora's Kanban card components into the corresponding columns based on the reviewer status.
So I got to work on a general pop-up modal that was going to be used throughout the peer review dashboard and the Kanban board, and as well as a style component library that can be used to customize the modal depending on what kind of information you want to display with it. And I used the modal and its component library to create the peer review details modal, which displays reviewer information, relevant statuses, comments, files, and other fields that can be customized by users under the review form properties. And it also supports editor controls such as sharing the review with others in the review cycle, or toggling reviewer anonymity on and off.
So at the bottom of the Kanban board, we wanted to create a drop-down list specifically to show any declined review invitations. And those were pulled from two different locations. One, when they declined through email, and the second through declining on the actual website. And we displayed them just based on the date that it was declined.
Yeah, and we have a modal for invitations that are declined by email, where users can give a small like snippet of text explaining why they declined the review. And those details are shown in the modal that Anthony built out the framework for. And the modal includes a profile photo, a status badge, and their rationale for why they declined the review.
All right, so me and Neha worked on two extra modal components for the Kanban. So basically, we utilized Anthony's existing template to create two custom modals. For me, I created a modal that pertained to inviting new reviewers, and for Neha, she created a modal pertaining to deleting existing ones. So for my component, basically for my invite reviewer modal, it displays the reviewer's name, the ID, and it utilizes previous modal components as described before, Anthony's template within the code base.
And this is the manuscripts page, and as you can see, we have multiple pages. We added in the URL the page number to keep track so that as the user goes back and forth in between pages, it'll re-render to the proper page. Before this, it used to just re-render back to the dashboard or the first manuscripts page. In addition, we added a query for sorting and filtering. So if you change the created or updated, it will maintain that so that if you choose to navigate to a different page and then hit the back button, all of these states will be saved as opposed to going back to the default. In addition, we have Neha's loading bar up there, and that's a module with a spinner so that the user, whenever they upload a PDF or another file, it kind of shows the process of it and when it's finished. Lastly, up on the top right, there is Anthony's button. The update form, it used to not show anything in the progress, so you wouldn't actually know if the form was updated. Anthony checked that and showed an icon to show it was successful, so the user will now know that it went through.
All right, thanks. So this is all the changes we made. As you can see, we made a really nice dashboard for all the centralized data to go in and a clear workflow. So what's next for us? We still need to working on connecting some of the components and make filtering and sorting work better. And after which we will do some user testing with researchers at U of I and just to measure specifically A/B testing how effective our changes are and compared to the old version. And after which we will hand off to our client. So yeah, I think we're right on time. Any questions? Daniel?
Sure. Yeah, so I'll repeat the question first. The question was, there were a lot of code files in Kotahi before we began working on it even that were pretty long and maybe hard to learn and deal with. So I guess the answer to that is, I think we heard from you guys on Kata as well that you kind of did these, test applications before that might have helped you learn the frameworks. And I think that was a great idea. So I'll pass off to our devs though to explain their own process to learning this.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no easy way to deal with a large code base like Kotahi's was. I think it provided a lot of valuable learning experiences on just kind of being unafraid to delve into the code. And I think that's just the main thing. You just have to kind of dive into it, slowly figure out how everything works. I think something for me was getting used to a rate that wasn't a rate of working through issues or working through problems that wasn't as fast as maybe if we just built stuff from the ground up with conventions that we at Hack4Impact are familiar with. But yeah, I think just being unafraid to dive in is really the key part. Any other questions? Yes.
Would you say which aspects of when redesigning the website was the most challenging?
Yeah, so the question was which aspects of redesigning the website were most challenging. I think, Sora, do you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. So I think, I guess if you go back to the the overview, where it shows all the changes we've made, right? I guess how we display the aggregated data, specifically that little donut, right? It's pretty cool. But it was, yeah, but it was really hard to decide on that and figure out how to, because each it's associated with one specific manuscript associated with users, and each different users at different status, and it contains more information within that. So it's interesting seeing how that come out as a donut. Yeah. Does that answer the question? No. Any other question? Oh, yeah, Yisha. Yeah, so the question was that a lot of the component looked really similar to Southside Weekly, which is project 2 semesters ago. And what I took for inspiration is, I think, yeah, as all three are in Southside Weekly. And I guess the Kanban board, yeah, you can see the Kanban board from Southside Weekly, not the tables in the tag system. A lot of them are inspirations because I guess the general workflow, when we take on this project, we look at it, we look at the workflow, how they work. It's like pretty similar, right? Southside Weekly, you have like editors, different roles working on the specific like publication journals. And this one, we also have like different roles of users working on this research papers. So I think a lot of them designs and also how we display the data is like kind of analogous and shareable. So yeah, I guess having this as a weekly experience is really a great help for this project as well. Do you guys want to add on to that?
I think that covers it.
Yeah, I think that covers it and everything. Yes, Lisa?
Favorite Coko moment.
What? Sorry, what? Oh, okay. Yeah, does anyone want to go?
Yeah, so I was working on the donut and it was quite annoying. We got this bug where essentially the donut would work about once every 30 refreshes. So you would just refresh the page a bunch and it would eventually load. And Andrew tracked down a super annoying caching bug. But it was super funny just showing Dev and I, be like, look, it works. And you refresh like 30 times and you're like, oh, right, it works again. So that was super fun. Yeah, does anyone else want to add on?
I'll say Eric's a really good baker and he'd bring us a lot of food. So it was really nice to munch out during dev nights all the time. Anybody else? I think that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you.
Yes, it is. All right, just to quickly wrap us up. Yeah, no, I'm not showing your, fine. All right, wait, actually that's not relevant. All right, really quick, just to wrap us up, thank you guys for coming. We just hope everyone, hey guys, Hack4Impact, shh. Thank you guys for coming out. Hope you guys enjoyed seeing all 4 presentations. Feel free to go visit this link and you'll find our socials and also our interest form. Make sure to follow those and just keep in mind if we do happen to open up recruitment, that'll be posted there. Otherwise, it'll be next fall as well. But it's also just where we post all information for you to learn more about and what we're doing. In that case, yeah, thank you all for coming out. I think this ends and concludes Product Showcase. Hack4Impact, obviously stay around, but yeah, that is the end of Product Showcase.
What did you do?